Hello everybody, and welcome to Fundamental Games, Die in the Dungeon. Today we've got something extra special for you, for here we are in one of the prototype testing mats for the final dungeon. Now this may not be the final dungeon, but I am playing around with it as we near the end of the campaign and decide exactly what's going to fit into this lovely box of Die in the Dungeon. We've been able to decide that the DieMaster is worthy to join. Now that we're approaching 50,000 or over 50,000 Canadian and almost 40,000 US and lots of backers, we're well over 1,000 units that'll be going out to people in different ways. So I just wanted to make this campaign and this game as special as possible, and the DieMaster has been alluded to many times in the rulebook and throughout the comments and such. So what is the DieMaster? Well, the DieMaster is the one that has brought you to these dungeons and caverns and forced you to fight all these heroes instead of enjoying the life of rulership and power that you've always had. You were evilly whisked away into this dungeon and forced to dispatch the heroes so you could return back from whence you came. But the DieMaster has decided he wants to keep you in his dungeons. For all the wonderful work you've done purging the heroes, he figures you can probably just keep them away while he continues his sinister plan to take over Die City, which is above the dungeons. But you can't let that happen. You just have too much fun being free and controlling humans on your own. You don't want to be controlled by somebody while defeating heroes. So here we go to just give it a whirl and see how and if the die roller can take down the DieMaster. Alright, I've also included on this little map, just for some fun, again this is not a final map, this is just for fun for me to show you some of the mechanics of these, but we've got the Bard, who was unlocked as the first stretch goal in the campaign, and the Kobold, who kind of was released when we actually funded the game. So these are tokens that they'll each come with a token, and they will each come with a single card in the game. So here we've got the Bard, and the cards will be double-sided. The Bard will have a level 1/2 side and a level 3/4 side. Right now I don't have the number on there, but she will be double-sided. And then the Kobold has 2 sides as well. And so you get basically the equivalent of 4 cards worth of power instead of just 2. Alright, so what are we going to do here? We're going to teach you about all of these guys as we progress through, and that's why I placed the Bard here and the Kobold here, so that we're guaranteed to interact with them. I have set my stats up. I kind of just I'm beefing everything up here. I got to set my time back up to 20. Time isn't going to matter as much in this game, although the DieMaster does have ways to knock you down, so anything could happen. And I do have to change these cards out, so let me just take these away. And oh, I don't know who that creature is. Whoops. Let's say we never saw that. Unless you saw this video, you may have just seen somebody else. Alright, but it's not a creature. It is a special thing that would be involved if we can ever unlock that social stretch goal. I'll give you a hint. Its name is Crit. Okay, so I've got my powers. I've got my 1 ability point. Let's set that back to 1. I've got everything else set, and now I venture forth in the dungeon. So what do I do on my first turn? First thing in the turn, I gain an ability point. So I'm up to 2, and I lose a time, so I'm down to 19, and then I explore the next level of the dungeon. Now there is a token there, and this one I do not have a choice but to use it. So the Bard is now in play. So what happens when you find the Bard is the token is put aside, and the next time you fight an encounter, whether it's on this tile or any tile further down, the Bard is going to join that particular battle. So you don't know if it's going to be right away or down the road. And if it's level 1 or 2, it'll be on the 1-2 side. If it's level 3 or 4 tile, it'll be on the 3-4 side. And the one that is +2 to all rolls will be the 3-4 side, and the one that is reroll values of 1 and 2 will be on the 1-2 side. Okay, so we flip this over, and we have a Diminion Revolt. If you have any Diminions, destroy one of them or lose 1 health. Now I do start every game with 1 d6 Diminion, so I should probably find one of those. I did not equip myself with one of those, so let's get myself a d6 Diminion. So I can lose this Diminion or I can lose a health. What would I prefer to do? I will lose the health. Darn Revolt. But that's not so bad. I don't mind losing a single health instead of a Diminion, and I didn't have to fight a battle this turn, so that's okay. So now I go forth and I get the Kobold. So what does the Kobold do? Well, when you acquire the Kobold, you get to choose what side you want to put it on. And what it'll say here is once a turn you can re-roll any non-hero die roll immediately after rolled. And at the end of the turn, flip this card over. So even if you don't use the ability, you're going to flip this card over. And then on the other side, it says for 1 roll this turn, you can use the next highest die type for the die you would normally use. At the end of the turn, flip this card over. But it's only for 1 roll. So we'll start with this guy face up. Alright, so he's my Kobold caddy. He helps me once a turn with a reroll or a roll upgrade, depending on which side he's on. And so it kind of keeps him dynamic. You can't plan every turn around what he's going to do for you, but he is helpful either way. Alright, so what else do we have to do when we progress forward? Well, I have to lose a time, so we're down to 18 time. We gain an ability point. I'm up to 3. We're good there. And what do we find? We find here a magic tile. Gain 2 magic. Upgrade if this exceeds your max. So I have 8 magic, which means I get to upgrade this. I'm just going to make a new die. Normally you would use a die that you already, one of these dice, but the pleasure of Tabletop Simulator is you have infinite dice. Okay, so I've upgraded that. I increased it by 2 because that's what happens when you, this tile says. And you can see there I have to face 4 level 2 wizards. So I must find 4 level 2 wizards. I will search this deck, find a level 2 wizard. There we go. Slap them here. And again, the power of Tabletop Simulator means I don't have to search anymore. I can just place them. But not only that, the Bard comes into play. Level 2, so that will be the reroll option. So while the Bard's in the party, the heroes reroll any die rolls of value 1 and 2, and the Bard cannot be destroyed. So it's kind of in the back of the battle, playing a little tune that the wizard's harmonious magical spells are enhanced by. It prevents them from stumbling and dropping spell components and any of those fiddly things that might happen when you're in the midst of battle. These wizards are ready to rock. Okay, so as we go into battle, I have the ability to use a point first, or an ability first before the wizards strike. Keeping in mind that when the wizards found me, I immediately lose 3 time, 1 for each wizard in the party beyond the first. And there's so 3 extra wizards, I lose 3 time. Ouch. So I could do a roll of telekinesis if I were to make a might or agility check, so that doesn't help me much this turn. I could do a roll of sleep and remove one of them from combat, a roll of disintegration and try to just wipe one out immediately while still having a combat roll this turn. Or I could do an eye modify or an eye gaze. I think I'm going to go for an eye gaze. I'm going to use all, or do I want to save my ability points against the DieMaster? Yeah, I'm going to do the eye gaze. So each time I would roll dice this turn, roll twice as many dice, add the values together. I may not modify those rolls, so I will, you know what, I don't even need that. I think I can take them out with my basic might alone. So you know what, I won't use anything. The wizards get to attack. Now they get to attack using 8, 16 times 2. They've got 32, which means they're just going to roll their max die value. They're going to roll a d20 because that's the most they can roll. So they roll that. They're going to roll against my magic defense of 10. 20, that is a definite strike. Ouch. So I'm going to take 1 magic damage. I could take it to health, but I'll take 1 magic damage. But because they're wizards, when they hit with a magic attack of 10 or higher, I lose a time as well, and I don't get to choose a different option for that. So they whittle away at my time if I let them survive too long. And that's my attack. I will grab this d12 here. I'm just doing a regular basic attack, hoping to get higher than 4. I rolled an 11, so that is enough to wipe out a wizard. Goodbye. I'll just delete him. Yeah, I'll throw him up here in the dead pile. And whenever I defeat a hero, I gain 1 pip onto my onto a die, and once it gets to 6, I'll get a +1 pip dynamic die. Okay, the wizards are attacking now. 8, 16, 24. They're still going to roll a d20. They've rolled a 19. That is a hit. I will take it to my magic again, but I also lose the time again because it's greater than 10. Ooh, that's such a tiny dungeon, but my time is already almost at half. I attack back. I only have to get higher than 3. That is a hit. We take out a wizard. I gain a dynamic die point. Wizards get to attack. They've got 16. They still get to roll a d20. Roll. 17. That is a hit. Oh, man. I'll take another magic damage and another time damage. And I will roll. 9 is a hit. Take out another wizard. Gain another point. So the wizards aren't hard for me to stop, but they certainly are doing their damage to me. Now it's only a d8 because it's only got 8 magic. So I take this d8 and he can't knock my time down this time. But an 8 against a 7, because I've been taking magic damage, that is still a hit. And I will take another magic damage because I'm worried about health against the DieMaster. I attack back with my might, smash into him with my levitating super orb of powerfulness that I am, and gain myself up to 4 pips. Okay, I've defeated 4 level 2 wizards. That was time intensive, and I forgot all about using my Kobold. And they didn't roll a 1 or a 2, so the bard goes away. She doesn't stick around for future battles. She saw the party wiped away and ran back up into Die City, unable to fight in any more battles. Okay, but I forgot about my Kobold who flips over at the end of the turn, and just have to remember that. So again, one of the things about this game is you have to remember that everything has an effect. You gain an ability point on your turn, you lose a time on your turn, the Kobolds flip over. You just have to remember a few things to keep everything in sync, and that's one of the things about solo games is if you do track your rules right, it makes the game more intense and every decision more important. Okay, so here we are. I could go left, get magic. I could go right, get a 12, which is a, whoops, I didn't want to see what was underneath there, but maybe it's locked. There. So 12, it's not secret, but he's right there. So I could get a d12 as a bonus Diminion, or I could just splurge ahead. And I'm going to keep this video short. I could go and explore some of these things, but I already lost half my time. And the DieMaster is actually pretty decent at knocking your time down. I know because I might have put them together. So I will lose a time. I'm down to 11. I will gain an ability, bringing myself up to 4 ability points, which is great. And I will snag this d20 Diminion to join my group. So Twent, the mighty d20, and Kubera, the little d6, are on my side this game. Alright, and what do I have to counter when I flip over here? Headhunters. My agility and might stats are reduced by 2 when I'm attacking and defending this battle. And it's a level 3 fighter and rogue. So these guys are pretty tough. Let's sort through and find that. So we will search for a level 3 fighter and rogue. There's level 3 rogue. Alright, we need a level 3 fighter. There we go. So this is who I'm facing off against this turn. And I've got 4 ability points, so it makes sense that I should use at least one of them. So what do I want to do? I could do an eye gaze or an eye modify. I could do a roll of sleep and just remove one of these guys, because these guys are fairly tough when you look at the 2 of them together. So let's say I knock my 4 down to 2, and I use the roll of sleep. So I remove a hero from combat for 2 turns. If I defeat the rest of the party in those 2 turns, the combat ends. And if I do not, it comes back. So for 2 turns, this guy will be out of battle, or this guy. Which one do I want? Well, agility, they're more likely to hit me than might. So we're going to take this guy out of the equation. I'll put him upside down. And for 2 turns, he doesn't get to fight or add any stats. So now the fighter can try to whack me. He's just got a d8 now because the rogue doesn't get to assist. So he rolls his d8. He needed an 8 to hit. That was a miss. So now I can smash in with my magic d10 against his magic defense of 4, because magic is best against warriors when they are alone. So I'll take this, roll it up. Ooh, a 4 against a 4. That is a miss. but I can use 1 magic point to bring this up by 1. So that's a permanent reduction of my magic, but I'd rather dispatch of the fighter. And so once I dispatch as a fighter, I do gain a pip. And then it says here on my ability card that the combat ends. So I'll flip that over. I don't get that card anymore this game. This card is not considered defeated, but it's gone. And I've cleared that tile, so nothing wrong with that. And I'm at 11 time, and I am right here. So I could try to swoosh over and try to bump up. Maybe I could bring my might to a d20, and that might give me a better chance at winning. Oh, I have to go that way anyway, so you know what? Let's do that. So I'm going to lose a time. Boom. Gain an ability point. Back up to 3. Grab another Cubera and explore this tile. This tile is sorcery. Flip over the tile adjacent to this one from the direction you came. So I'm here. I'd flip this over. If I wanted to go back that way now, I'd have to explore it all over again. And then I also have to fight 2 level 1 wizards, which is not nearly as bad as what I've been fighting so far. So I think I can handle that. So I'll search for 2 level 1 wizards through the deck. And when you're playing the game on the tabletop, you'll probably have these all kind of sorted out or sorted in your stack. But I accidentally shuffled this before I played, so. There we go, 2 level 1 wizards. If there's more than 1 wizard in play at the beginning of the battle, I lose 1 time for each wizard beyond the first. So I will lose a time. I'm down to 9 time. And got 3 ability points, so I'm not going to use an ability. I can take these guys out, but they got to attack me with a d12. So they're going to take this and roll it. Ooh, 6 against my 5. That is a hit. It's not a roll over 10, so they don't lose a time, but I have to lose a health or a magic. Hooah! I will lose a magic. And then I'm going to attack. I'm going to swing in with my might roll, d12. 9 is a hit, so I take out this guy, gain a pip. So once I'm at 6 pips on a die, I get to place that die over here at the value of this. So I'm actually going to rotate it back to a 1. And now I have a dynamic die, which I can use for any roll in the game up or down. So it's a bit different than your stat dice. The wizard gets to attack me with just a d6, the lowest attack of the game thus far. But if he rolls a 6, it'll hit. Actually, if it rolls a 5 against my 4, that's a hit. So, ooh, I take another damage. I'm going to keep on losing my magic. I just don't want to lose that health. So I'm going to attack back with my might. At 12, smashing this wizard to smithereens. My next dynamic die starts to move up in value. Okay, we are here. If I want to go back that way, it would cost me another time. I'm not going to. I'm going to move up. Now I could use time to gain health, but I'm going to choose not to. I'll lose a time, gain an ability point. I'm at my maximum ability points now. Gain this might token. And so I could save this, but I'll just use it now. When I use the might token, I gain 2 might. And if you're at max value, you can upgrade your die. So I'm just going to take a d20. I thought I had extra. I don't have all the dice that the game comes with on the board right now, so I'm just going to take this and set it to a 12. Actually, it was at 12. I'm going to set it up to 14. So now I have 14 might, and I get to roll a d20 when I attack with might. So power up for me. Yeah, but we found a clear. Gain a health. This does not trigger an upgrade. That is a fantastic way to set myself up for the Diminion. Now, I'm going to use an I modify. If you read I modify, it says the next time you would roll a die, increase the die size to the next size. Notice that it doesn't say this turn, and that is a very important ability because that way I can use the point, still gain a point and go back to 4 at the beginning of my next turn while having the I modify. Just keeping in mind you don't want to forget about it. So I'm going to put this D4 maybe right here as a way to remind myself. Okay. So I used an ability point, but then on my next turn I'm going to gain an ability point. I'm going to lose a time when I move to the final dungeon tile. Now what's underneath doesn't matter. This giant dungeon die in the dungeon is the DieMaster, is how this level would be designed. So here we have the DieMaster. Everything else I've done up to this point just kind of whittled away at me, and so I have to watch how much I explore before fighting the DieMaster, because if I get too weak I don't have a chance to defeat him. Not that I have much of a chance to defeat him anyway. And look at this darn Kobold who hasn't done anything this game. Ooh. Okay, so the DieMaster. What does the DieMaster do? Well, it has a set of special rules. You set each die shown to its maxed value on the DieMaster stats. So you can see I already did that. A D8 for might, a D10 for agility, and a D12 for magic is how the game starts for our hero here. Let me just remove these. These are just for other purposes. Okay, so they start at their value, and then health at 6 as well. And it says next, on the DieMaster's turn, I will roll a d4, which is its action. So we will actually take this d4. This is going to be its action die. Alright. If the DieMaster is ever hit, which means you have to hit one of these numbers, I'll reduce its health by 1 and then exchange the stat die it was struck by with its highest stat die, unless it happens to be the highest stat die. So what I mean by that is if I hit the DieMaster on their might, I would rotate their might with the highest stat die, and then that stat die would go there. And so what it does is it's the DieMaster adjusting its defense to whatever it's being attacked against with the highest value. And again, all of these are subject to change. I'm still in playtesting with the DieMaster, but I'm having fun with him, and I think he's at a point where I'm ready to share with you how it works. Okay, and the DieMaster is not defeated until its health is 0. So unlike regular heroes, this guy has to be hit 6 times. But that's not all. The special abilities have a huge impact on how it wins, so it doesn't attack like normal creatures. If you roll a 1, it will cast a Spell of Dementia. So what does a Spell of Dementia do? A Spell of Dementia says, reduce each of your stat dice by 1, and this is referring to the player, not the DieMaster. And for each that is already at 1, take a health damage instead. So if it casts Dementia on me, I would lose 1, 1, 1, and 1, because the 4 in the center are my stat dice. So that's a tough one. Second one is Mental Disruption. Roll a d4. Again, reduce your time by that value. You may sacrifice a Diminion instead. So again, this is referring to the player. Would roll a d4. And I would lose 3 time or have to sacrifice a Diminion. Basically, that person sucks up the mental disruption instead of me. I throw it into the mental waves of the DieMaster. The third ability, Command Word, Die. I must reduce my highest die by 3 points, but not below 1. So whatever my highest die is at the time that Command Word Die is cast, I lose 3 points. In this case, it would be Might, until the point where it got to 1, in which case it would just be reduced to 1. So Command Word Die can't actually kill you, kind of ironic, but it can certainly weaken you to the point where you can be killed. And then finally, Recovery. The DieMaster gains a health. So if they ever roll a 4, all your hard work at hitting them gets knocked down a peg. Okay, so let's get into battle here. What are we going to do? Well, remember I've got I Modify activated and I have the Kobold, so I cannot forget these things, plus I have 3 abilities. Roll of Telekinesis doesn't really help me this turn, so I'm just going to flip it over. That gives me a roll of Disintegration, which defeats 2 heroes. That doesn't really matter. And Take Control of a Hero. Doesn't really matter. So all these ability cards are really only useful against heroes for this particular character, but other characters have abilities that might have helped them in the actual battle against the DieMaster. And that's part of the fun of the game, is asymmetrical player boards or character boards or creature boards. Okay. We have the I Modify, which is already active right now. I could use that 4 more times in a row. I mean, that's not bad. Or the I Gaze, each time I roll dice this turn, roll twice as many dice and add the values together. I think that is a worthy investment fighting against the DieMaster. So I will go down to 1 ability point, and each time I roll dice this turn, I roll twice as many dice, add the values together. But I'm not allowed to modify, so all my dice values that I might normally modify with, including my dynamic dice, I cannot use to modify. So it means that the only way I can modify is to use a dynamic die on the DieMaster's roll. And I can even use that on his ability roll. So that's a great thing about dynamic dice, is they're multi-purpose. Okay, let's get into this. The enemy always attacks first, even the DieMaster. So DieMaster will roll their die. They have rolled a 2, a Mental Disruption. They're going to roll a d4, and I will reduce my time by that value. Now, before they roll that, I could use my dynamic die, but it's too early in the battle. I don't want to do that. So we'll roll that. They rolled a 4. The DieMaster gains a health. The DieMaster can't get higher than 6 health, so that is a great way for us to start the round. Oh wait, no. Sorry, that was a mental disruption, 4. So I must lose 4 time or lose a Diminion. And I'm only at 7 time, and I see that mental disruption could happen multiple times. So I'm afraid this little dude suffers the disruption. Now it's my attack. I could go after their might of 8, their agility of 10, or their magic of 12. Keeping in mind that I get to roll twice as many dice. So I'm going to double the d20s I have and attack with my might this turn. So we've got a 29, that is a definite hit, so I would reduce that health by 1, and then because I hit with might, I will rotate the highest die with the might. So now might is harder to hit. Alright, the DieMaster gets to go. They roll a d4. They have a 4. They gain a health, so they gain that health right back. Ouch. Now I could use my dynamic die and change that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to attack. I could keep attacking with might. I mean, I have a good chance to roll 40, and I do have the Kobold that I can use once this round. Once this turn, I can reroll any non-hero die immediately after it's rolled. Cool. Alright, we'll roll these might. 33, so bam. This might be too powerful. See? That's why we playtest. So I hit him. The DieMaster gets to attack. DieMaster rolls a 1. Reduce each of your stat dice by 1. So I reduce this by 1, reduce this by 1, reduce this by 1, and reduce this by 1. Okay. Remember, health is a stat die, so I could lose the game just from that ability alone. Back to my attack. I'm going to roll 2d10. So we're going to have 6 plus 7 is 13. That is a hit against agility. So they're going to lose a health and rotate agility with might. Boom, boom. Okay, the DieMaster goes. Rolls a die. DieMaster rolls a 4. They gain a health. Boom, boom. Whoops. So they're back up to 5. I am going to attack their might with my 2d20. Really doesn't seem fair, does it? 8 plus 9 is 17. That is a hit. I don't think I remembered to rotate last time. Okay, that's a hit anyway. So we'll put that there, and back down to 4 health. The DieMaster rolls the dice. They rolled a 1. Reduce each of your stat dice by 1. Boom, 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 boom. My turn. I could roll double magic. I've got d10s for that, so let's do that. As you can see here, I've got to maybe reconsider the die roller's power or the DieMaster's power at this point, because it seems a little lopsided. I rolled a 12. That definitely beat the magic, so those are going to rotate out, and the DieMaster will take a damage. The DieMaster is going to attack. They roll their special ability. They rolled a 1. We lose an ability point, an ability point, an ability point, and it also says for each die that is already at 1, take 1 health damage instead. Now my magic is down to 1, so I actually take another health damage. Maybe this isn't as easy as it looks. As much as I'm striking down the DieMaster is striking me down, so I might have to put that Kobold into action, or my dynamic die. But I'm not dead yet. I am going to attack with my might. Roll that might. 10 plus 14, 24, that is a definite hit, so their health goes down. We rotate magic over here, that over here, and the DieMaster gets to go. Whoa, the DieMaster has a 1. So I don't really like that. I'm going to activate my Kobold and reroll the non-hero die. So this is not a hero die. Oh, by non-hero die, it actually would refer to the DieMaster, because it should say an enemy die, I guess it'd be a better wording. So I would actually have to use my dynamic die. The only one I have to increase or decrease that by 1. I can't decrease it to 0, so I have to increase it by 1, meaning I have a mental disruption. So they roll a d4. and I lose 1 time. That's acceptable. Okay, my turn to attack. I will attack with 2d10 for magic. So I have an 8 against their 8. Remember, because of my eye gaze, I cannot modify these rolls, but I can use Cubera. So let's take out Cubera, and we're going to add a d6. That's not a modify, that is Diminion support, because I'm really worried about dying now. 4, so I now have a total of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so that is a hit. Down to 1 health, we're going to rotate that. Now the DieMaster really wants to gain some health here. DieMaster rolled a 3. Command word die. Reduce your highest die by 3 points, but not below 1. So this 11 would rotate down to 8. Now I get to attack. Might is only 8, so I'm going to attack with my double roll here. Roll it up, and that is a hit. So you can see here, boom, we take out the DieMaster in our very first live playthrough against him, and he kind of falls into a puddle of slimy goop as I chuckle derisively at his feeble attempt to control me in his dungeon. I wiped out all the heroes. I wiped out the epic parties level after level that you obviously didn't see in this playthrough, and now I've taken out the DieMaster. Now keep in mind, some of these rules could change before the final production of the game, but the concepts will remain very, very similar with the ability cards and the dice placement and the addition of dice. I think the one thing that really stood out this game was that eye gaze was a bit overpowered, and so maybe there would be a limit of how many times we can do that double roll instead of infinite, particularly against the final boss of this game, the DieMaster. So hopefully you got a chance to enjoy how the Kobold works, even though I forgot to use him most of the time, and how the Bard worked, and the new DieMaster character, who is not a playable character, which is what you might have thought originally, but actually an enemy. So I hope you like what you're seeing with Die in the Dungeon. Some more content coming soon. I have a really, really exciting component change that I think you guys are going to love. I'm considering announcing that this weekend. I just want to make sure that it's the right play for cost. It's certainly the right decision for the backers and for anybody getting the game. I think it'll add a great visual and quality to the game, and I certainly love increasing quality of games, but I want to make sure that it's cost conscious as well. So stay tuned, and again, share this game as much as you can. We can keep making this game better before the final days wrap up very, very soon here. Thanks as always for watching Fundamental Games, this time my own playthrough, and I look forward to sharing more Die in the Dungeon fun with you.